Very groovy. Hey, kids, what time is it?
Time for Gezintahait Street.
It is time for Gezintahait Street, and the story tonight is Tears Saturated the Walls. That's the title of the story. In the book Likutei Devarim, the previous Rebbe who got out of jail yesterday and the day before, and that's a celebration of his release, related that when his father, the Rebbe Rashab, told him that he would become the next Rebbe. The previous Rebbe's father, who was the Rebbe, told him, son, you will be the next Rebbe. The previous Rebbe said, okay, I accept the mission on one condition, that it be carried out with kindness and mercy. The previous Rebbe said that the incident affected his health. In fact, he cried such copious tears, he said, that the walls of the room became saturated with tears. Why was he crying? Because as the leader of the generation, he was afraid and he wanted to make sure that he would not distance anyone or hurt anyone in the course of accomplishing his mission. So he was crying. Our Rebbe tells us that the previous Rebbe refused to permit this story to be published. He said he didn't want it published. Nevertheless, he knew that our Rebbe had notes and that sooner or later the episode would be revealed. Now, there's something of a wonder in this episode. The previous Rebbe made a condition that his mission would be carried out with kindness and mercy, and his father, who was the Rebbe, said, okay, it will be with kindness and mercy. So why did the previous Rebbe still shed such copious tears? His father agreed it would be like he wants. So why did he have to cry so much? Our Rebbe says, when the mind is overwhelmed by a flood of information that it can't contain, it overflows the brain in the form of tears. Similarly, Kabbalah explains that tears can result from an overflow of intellect. For example, when the soul can't contain great pain, or on the positive side, great happiness. Another explanation Tears flow during prayer. When? When the soul is poured out. We also see this play out powerfully. We see this play out powerfully when the heart is filled to overflowing with emotion. And that emotion is expressed not just with normal tears, but to the point where the walls become saturated. In explaining the incident, our Rebbe focuses on the walls of the room. He says when two or more people are in a room, their situation brings them close. Like in halacha, when you have 10 Jews, like in the Yidel with the fiddle shul, in the same room, it becomes a minyan. According to Hasidus, there's a spiritual difference between a house and clothing. A house represents an encompassing level of spirituality that is far from a person, as opposed to clothing, which represents an encompassing level that reflects the measure of the person. A room can contain people with opposite personalities and viewpoints. Since they're together, however, each will help the other, even though the other person is not a friend. What do you mean? How could he not be a friend? He's not a friend because he's not his colleague in Torah and Mitzvah. He's far away from being religious. But the guy can join in the minyan. Not only that, we insist that the outsider be brought into our four walls. In other words, we love another like we love ourselves. We want to be in the four worlds, and we want another to be in with us, even though he's not on our level. Like the Alter Rebbe tells us in chapter 32 of Tanya, that even though he's an outsider, we need to tie him to us with bonds of love, so that maybe he will become an insider. Therefore, we insist that the other Jew be brought into our four worlds, so that he will become a mensch, a complete man. In Jewish tradition, one without a home is not considered to be a complete person. So whoever feels he doesn't have a home, please go to Chabad house. Through bringing him within the walls, we enable the outsider to become a mensch, to become a person. And to accomplish this, the walls of the house must be saturated with tears. Even though he's a person who may be worthy of stripes, he's so far away that really he should get whipped. We ensure that he has not received those stripes. Even he's on such a level that even the extreme of whipping would not eliminate his foolishness. We do not distance ourselves from him. There's a lesson here for each one of us in our service to Hashem. The previous Rebbe is telling us to go beyond the letter of the law and bring an outsider close, even if the person is on a level where whipping, where stripes would not affect him, and therefore it's wise to stay away from him. Nevertheless, we should bring him into our space, into our four worlds. And this is the straight path the previous Rebbe taught, and it's an enduring way that leads to eternal victory. Now, I have a little bit of marginal maven, a comment on this story. One Puran Das, who doesn't have good brains too much, would suggest that the need to saturate the walls with tears in order to bring in the outsider is because when one considers his brother's truly sad state and lowly situation, he'll be moved to compassion and invite him to come in and join those who are inside under the wings of the godly presence under the wings of the Shekhinah. You guys want to lighten things up with a little nigga?
Yeah, we got one for you, Bezalel.
Mendel, are you able to raise your microphone a little?
Oh, you know what? It's being covered. It's being covered by potatoes.
What?
How's
It's
that?
stuck in the potatoes?
The potatoes was covering it.
Oh, so move the potato.
Oh, Tatia, won't you do us a thing? And please return with your people. And the angels all singing, oh, glorious King, won't you please return with your people? They made you a crown, won't you come back down? And please return with your people. Oh, Tatia, King, you know it don't mean a thing. Let's return with your people. Bye. Oh, Tatia, won't you do a thing and return with your people? And the angels all sing, oh, glorious King, oh, return with your people. Oh, they made you a crown, won't you come back down and return with your people? Oh, Tatia, no, don't unless return with your people. Hey, Tatia, oh, give us a good thing. And please return with your people. A crown of they made you a crown. Oh, please return with your people, your people.
At the risk of repeating myself, that was quite groovy, boys. Quite groovy.
It was wie sagt man, sehr groovy.
Oh, much obliged, sir. Much obliged.
It was very nice, very nice. Okay, now I'm going to share on the screen. We're going to continue. Gimel Aleph is going to work out the lessons for the seniors in how to sharpen their brains by learning the chain of descent to the worlds according to Jewish mysticism. Okay, here it is. All right. You see where this blue lettering is? Gimel Aleph? Do you see the document on the screen?
Khalil, I see the blue part.
What?
I see the blue part.
Okay. So that's where we ended off last time. That's where we're going to start this time.
Experiment with Khalil.
Yeah.
Experiment to see if liquid would go down Leib's windpipe. It didn't work.
What?
We did an experiment to see how well liquid would go down Leib's windpipe. It didn't work. It didn't work.
Nothing came up of it.
Nothing worked.
It was a good try though. It was a very valiant effort.
You know?
So am I reading the blue? What are we reading here?
Well, I'm going to read it, and then you're going to tell me back like what we're talking about. But
Okay.
before I do,
And
I want to catch us up to where we are.
Okay.
We explained that Chachma, which is wisdom, is the idea itself, higher than explanation in words and letters. And Bina, understanding or explanation, is the explanation of that idea in words and letters. And Das, which is translated as knowledge, which means to bond to the idea and its explanation until one is unified with it by concentrating on it. Now we said that even though Chachma, wisdom, is the level of the giver to the explanation, which is Bina, there's an idea and the explanation. The idea is what is the source of the explanation. So the idea, which is Chachma, is a giver to the explanation of Bina. Nevertheless, Chachma itself, wisdom itself, receives from the level that's higher than it, which is called maskil. Are you okay with that, Gimel Aleph? You want to explain to me what we just said?
Yeah. So we have just like there's the idea itself, and then this idea can go into an explanation, but the idea itself has to come from something higher than itself.
Yeah, but the idea itself is called a nothing.
Yeah, the nothing, and it comes.
It's just an intuitive flash with no words and letters.
Yeah,
But it is an existence compared to where it comes from.
right, because it comes from the Keach HaMaskal, which is much more nothing.
Right, a much higher level of nothing.
It's more nothing.
Huh?
And for example, just my rough example, my hand has the power to move. But my power of movement is not a move at all. Just I have the power to move any way I want. The same way, Chachma is a nothing compared to how it explains itself in a Bina. But itself is a receiver from its source. Like my power of movement is a receiver from my life of my soul that's in my body. So too, Chachma receives from what's higher than it. And what's higher than that has a name, and it's called maskil. And everybody sees the word maskil has the word seichel in it. But it means it's the source of the seichel. It's that which produces the chachma. And the soul power which produces chachma is called koach hamaskil. The potential to produce an idea, which is called the chachma generator. And its seat, where it is in the human person and the human psychology, is in a spiritual moisture of the hidden brains, which are located higher than the covering which covers the three brains of Chachma, Bina, and Das. Do you get that, Gimel Aleph? Maybe let me explain it. The right hemisphere of the brain is the vessel to receive the idea. And the left hemisphere of the brain is the vessel of the explanation of the idea. The vessel to receive the Chachma and the vessel to receive the Bina. The back brain is the vessel for the concentration on the Chachma and Bina. Are you okay with that? The brain has 3 sections.
Yeah, the brain has 3 sections.
Now, like to explain in modern psychology, the right brain is the Chachma brain. It's the intuitive brain, the artistic brain. The left brain is the Bina brain. It's your doctor, your lawyer, the one that's able to set limits and explanations. And the back brain is the ability of the brain to concentrate on either the Chachma and Bina. You're okay with all that? Now, on top of that brain, there is a membrane. There's some kind of a skin stuff. It's called a membrane. And higher than that membrane is a spiritual moisture. And in that spiritual moisture is this level called the Koach HaMaskil. That which is able to produce an idea which will come into the right brain. It's not that hard, but it might take a minute to think about it. Are you okay with it, Gimel Aleph? You have a right brain, a left brain, and a back brain. A membrane covers them, and higher than that membrane is the source of what's going to be revealed in those 3 brains.
Bitzalel,
Yeah.
it's, you know what kind of brain it is? A membrane.
Good one. I never thought of that. And the soul power, which produces the idea, is called the Koach HaMaskil, the power to produce an idea. It's called the generator of the idea, the Chachma generator. It's seated in the spiritual moisture of the hidden brains, which are located higher than the covering that covers the 3 brains of Chachma, Bina, and Das. Like we said, the Chachma brain is on the right brain, the Bina brain is in the left brain, and the Das brain, the knowledge brain, is in the back, the brain that can focus on the idea and its explanation. These 3 brains are covered by a membrane, a 4th brain. Mem is 4, which is a moisture in which is seated the wisdom producer, the idea producer, which is called the Koach HaMaskil. Now, the right brain of those 3 brains, called the Chachma brain, is the vessel which has the power to receive the flow of the idea, the flow of wisdom from the Chachma generator, from the Koach HaMaskil. Are you okay with that, Gimel Aleph? The right brain is a vessel to receive what? The idea. And where does the idea come from? You tell me.
Well, the idea comes from the membrane and flashes into.
No, higher than the membrane.
Higher than the membrane. The Koach HaMaskil
comes from the Koach HaMaskil.
Yeah, Koach HaMaskil. You know, Betzalel, it's interesting because people think we're only talking about a brain, but really this is how everything works. I just heard it that from the Alter Rebbe, like you talking about that, like Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, is called that also because it's like just like an idea goes into the head.
Right.
So that's how like the life force comes from higher than time into a time limitation. Is through the head of the year.
Correct. So you're right. So we are explaining it according to the psychological workings of the person, but really what we want to explain is how it is by Hashem. And Rosh Hashanah is the name Rosh, it's a head, just like we're talking about now, the brain. Very good. And the flow of intellect, the idea, which is generated from the spiritual source, which produces the Chachma, the idea, called Koach HaMaskil, what it produces, the actual Chachma, the actual idea, flashes into the brain, into the right brain, like a lightning flash. The idea sparks and flashes into the brain, and that's the first revelation of the idea, like the eureka moment. This flashing in of the idea is symbolized by the Hebrew letter Yud, called the Yud of Chachma. Everybody knows that the ineffable name of Hashem, we had it a lot on our show, and maybe I'll, next Nigun, I'll go and find it and show it. And the first letter of that ineffable name, Havaya, is a Yud. It's a small line on a piece of paper. And that is the flash of the idea. It flashes into the brain in the person. And how it is up there is the first revelation of the godly levels in the world of Atzilus. Now, before the idea, before the Chachma flashes in to be revealed as an idea, it's still included in the Koach HaMaskil, which is higher and hidden from the person's conscious apprehension. Okay, there's a thing that produces the idea, but we don't have any grasp on it. It's higher than the membrane that covers our brain. And this level of the intellect, where it's still included in the idea generated in the generator, in the Koach HaMaskil, is called Pella or Aleph, as opposed to a Yud. The Yud is the actual Chachma that flashes into the brain, but the Pella and the Aleph are inaccessible to us. It's on a higher level, like a kind of a subconscious and unconscious level. Are you okay with that at all? That which produces the idea is not accessible to us. The first accessible thing is the idea as it flashes into the brain.
Right, because before that, it's not in our brain.
It didn't get to our brain yet.
It's in a vessel yet.
Yeah.
That's what
So what do these boys want to make us some music now? Is that what's happening?
I want to make music, Kevin. Mach music. Why not? Mach music. Kevin. So unshare the thing, they can see the band.
Aleph, thanks for your patience, baby.
They'll take the share off so they can see the Chevre play.
Well, we're going to do that right now. All right.
Okay, ready, Chevre?
First, you're going to bongo us up, or you're like playing on your phone? I always say that the Hasidus takes us out. But you boys, when you play those Negunim, you really take us out. There's no more world left. The only thing that's left is the niggun.
No more voil. There's a Einid Milvadi.
What? I can't hear you good. You got your mic on?
I said it's a Einid Milvadi, nothing but him. If we take it out of the voil.
Out of the world. Ain't no Novado. Let's see where we're up to. Here we are. Now, the flow, how the idea comes into the brain, parallels the metaphor that we had of a teacher and a student. In order to accomplish the production of the flash of the idea in the wisdom brain, the koach hamaskil, the generator of the idea, has to hold itself back. It has to contract itself. Why? It has the innate ability to produce any kind of chachma without limits. And in order to produce this particular chachma, this particular idea, it has to contract itself. Similar to the metaphor of the power of movement in the hand. My power of movement can move in trillions of different ways. And to make a specific move of 5 inches this way and 3 inches that way, I have to contract my power to move any different way in order to make a specific move. So too the koach hamaskil, the wisdom generator, the idea generator, in order to generate a particular idea, has to pull back on its ability to generate any kind of ideas. So the koach hamaskil, the idea generator, is similar to the teacher. The teacher has a huge intellect, but he has to contract that intellect in order to connect with the student. The teacher knows, for example, that mathematics is an infinitely predictable algorithm. But what does he do? He comes into class with a bag with 4 apples in it, and he puts the apples on the table, and he says, see, kids, here's 2 apples, and here's 2 apples. How many apples are there? And they count, they say 4. So right, so 2 and 2 is 4. He contracts his great intellect and brings it down into this particular thing that he wants to teach. So too the koach hamaskil, the chachma generator, contracts itself in order to produce a particular idea. How do you like that? Isn't that elegant, Gimel Aleph? How Hashem works?
Mitzalel.
Yeah.
Mitzalel, it's very groovy.
Very groovy. Now, since the koach hamaskil, the idea generator, has the power to produce an infinite variety of chachma, in order to produce a particular chachma, like we just said, it has to contract itself. It has to limit its ability to generate myriad ideas in order to produce this specific idea. like the power of movement that we described. And just as the teacher must abnegate his own level in order to communicate the idea to the student, so too does the student need to nullify his own level in order to receive the teaching. If the cup is filled with water, you can't put juice into it. The student has to empty himself and make it nullify himself to the teaching. So the student here, the object of the metaphor of the student, is the wisdom brain, where that's going to receive the idea from the Koach HaMaskil. It's like the student. He has to empty his brain. So too, the Chachma brain has to be open and empty. It's called the Koach Ma'av Chachma. In order to arouse the Koach HaMaskil, the idea producer, to produce this particular idea, causing this idea to flow into the brain as a flash. Just like the teacher teaches the student who is ready to learn, so too the wisdom brain must be open to be able to receive from the wisdom generator. There needs to be a contraction and an emptying of the vessel of the brain. One has to open his mind to be able to receive the wisdom, and remove the heretofore coarse orientation in the right brain, so that it becomes empty and open to receive the flash of the new idea. So too with us. We want to connect with God. If you don't want to connect with God, then you got a real problem. Because Hashem is the ultimate, like Billy the Yid used to say, he's the inmost to the utmost. And in order to connect with him, you have to realize you really have nothing. You have to open the mind to be able to receive. Okay, Gimel Aleph?
Yeah, got it.
And the parallel to this supernal godly level is the absolute nullification of the Chachma of the world of Atzilus to the essence of the infinite light. How it is up there in the godly world of Atzilus, the Chachma of Atzilus is a little yud.
I just want to is to clarify. So in other words, Atzilus in general meaning is like the whole brain, and the Chachma of Atzilus is like that right part of the brain.
Right, that's correct.
Above it, and then it's receiving just like the brain receiving from the Koach HaMaskil, just so the Atzilus is receiving from God's infinite light.
Let's call it from, the infinite light as it comes from the godly crown. Let's call it that for now.
Okay.
Very good, you got it. And this emptying of the mind to receive the wisdom is called the depth of Chachma. It's not yet a wisdom. There is no flash yet. It's just an opening of the mind to be able to receive the wisdom. So where the sea, there's two levels. There's the nullified level of the giver. The Koach HaMaskil has to contract itself to be able to reveal a particular idea. And that will be like how the teacher has to give himself away to be able to relate to the student. And you have the nullified level of the receiver. But the main thing is the nullification of the receiver. The main thing is the student has to show up and ask, please give me. And that's called the nothing of the student. He makes himself nothing in order to receive the wisdom. And that means in the object of the metaphor, how Chachma of Atzilus, of the godly world of Atzilus, receives the flow of its Chachma from the source of the supernal Chachma, from the infinite light, finally. And the nullification of the power of wisdom of Chachma, which automatically arouses the nothing of the teacher. When the student asks the teacher, "Teacher, what is this?" the teacher answers him immediately. The teacher nullifies himself in order to connect with the student. And an object of the metaphor, it's how Chachma of the world of Atzilus arouses the hidden Chachma of the Or Ein Sof, of the infinite light, to produce the Yud of Chachma, the revealed Chachma in the world of Atzilus. And this nullification of the power of wisdom is called the depth of Chachma. We're explaining how every level of Chabad, of Chachma, Bina, and Das, the idea, its explanation, and the focus on it, each one of them has a depth, a width, and a length. And this nullification to be able to receive is called the depth of Chachma. It's not a Chachma itself. It's not really a flash yet. It's just an emptying of the mind in order to receive the actual flash of the idea, the flash of Chachma. Like we said about death. Do you remember we said this about death? It is not a measurable existence. It's only something which...
Like we was talking about the corner and twilight and all these things.
Correct. How does that work? Do you remember?
Well, I remember that like the corner is where the one wall meets the other wall, but every single wie sagt man, atom and molecule is belonged either to this wall or to this wall. But so there's no real corner. It's just where something meets but doesn't exist by itself. Or when you by the night and the day when they meet, there's really nothing in between them. Either it is night, other it is day. There's no in between really, but this is like the middle point.
So when's the coroner come?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. Very good. So this is what we have here. The depth of Chachma is not a Chachma at all. It's not an idea at all. It's just an opening of the mind to be able to receive that flash of wisdom, that idea. Like we said, every depth is not a measurable existence. Like this empty mind, you can't measure it. There's no Chachma there yet. There's no idea. But only the connector from one level to the other. So too in our case, the depth of Chachma is only a connection which now allows the right brain to receive the idea from the idea producer called the Koach HaMaskil. And we'll understand it better using a metaphor of a spring of water in the ground called the spring of Chachma. A spring of water has basically two levels. One, it percolates out of the ground drop by drop. When you see it, you say, oh, there's a spring. And that's called the revealed spring. The second level is where the water is flowing in the veins in the earth. There's streams of water in the earth. And that's the source of this spring that you see percolate out of the ground. And that's called the hidden spring. I feel like we should have a nigun now. I think we got to a good place. What do you think, Gimel Aleph?
What B'Tzalel?
I'm wondering if it's a good time to have a nigun now.
Oh yeah, I'm asking the guys. What the Kodavi? Okay. You remember it? it? Is that keep doing it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Real nice. Thank you very much. I want to welcome Rabbi Chaim.
Yeah, also Bezalel. You
He
see,
flew in. Yeah.
my brother is here too. Dalit Elef.
Who?
My brother Dalit.
Wait, your brother?
Dalit Elef. You don't see him over there.
Oh, Dalan Elef. Yeah, I see him. He's younger brother.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him since Mount
So-
Sinai.
I want to welcome Rabbi Chaim. He flew into Gezintahait Street special to make us part of the senior kollel. And I want to thank him very much, and I feel very honored by that.
I think me and Dalit definitely qualify.
Yeah, 100%. Even Dalit does, even though he's a younger brother. Now, Gimel Elef, do you have an appeal for us tonight?
Well, yeah, you know, I want to say a little something. But I want to say like this. Is we have now a time coming up. It's gonna be the fast, the 17th of Tammuz, and then it's gonna be the 9th of Av. This is at this times when was the times when the Beis Hamikdash was taken away. But you know, the Rebbe's teach us that this was not, you know, it's not to look at it as, oh, because we sin and because this and that. It's because what the Eibishter really wanted. What the Eibishter really wanted is the Geula Hamidis Vashlema, the final and complete redemption with Mashiach. And that we didn't have yet, not in the first temple, not in the second temple. So if we didn't have it, that means it was coming still. And the main thing to remember, you know, it's like the Rebbe says in the Dvar Malchus this week, right, that it says, right, Shema Yisrael, Hero Israel, right, Hashem is Elokeinu, Hashem is one, Echad. It doesn't say Yochid, like he's the only, it says he's one, which implies like it's two that becomes one. And really you would think he's the only Yochid. But it's because the Eibishter wanted that we should be down here, and we should do a mitzvah, and we should come to recognize him, that we should see the Eibishter plainly with our human flesh and blood eyeballs. That we should see Eibishter, and we should serve him, and do his mitzvahs. And when we do this, we make echad, and we make one, and we bring down the Beit Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. And that's why I want to ask all of our friends, if you're Jewish, do a mitzvah from the 613 mitzvahs. If you're a man, you put on tefillin. You don't have to take, even if you don't take to do every day, even if you do take a mitzvah to do one time to put on tefillin. If you go Chabad.org, right? CHABAD.org, you can find the Chabad house next to you, and there is a shliach from the Rebbe, a messenger that the Rebbe sent just for you to help you do a mitzvah, and he'll teach you about different mitzvahs that's very easy to do. Pick one small thing, you know, it doesn't nothing. It doesn't
Put a nickel in a pushka.
Yeah, one mitzvah can bring Mashiach for goyals and women to light Shabbos candles. And if you're not Jewish, also there's the 7 Noahide laws that you can also help bring Mashiach. Everybody is on the team, Betzalel. So let's bring Mashiach now.
Amen. Beautiful. Beautiful. So are we ready for a sign off?
Leib, give us the big note. Oh, another niggin.
Oh, and Megan, do it.
Hey, come on, Hey,
Thank you so much. Yeshikoah. Gezintahait, Gezintahait, my friend. Remember, kids, Gezintahait.